Okay. Let's see if we can get a nicer, good image. Well, this is going to be good enough, I think. This is, of course, is the comic book. This was a Smallville. They had a comic book covers of different magazines and stuff. They had Smallville number 1 through. I think they made only about 15 of these damn issues. It was part magazine, part comic book, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. Of course, that's not why I called you all. We're here to talk about this person, of course, Allison Mack of Smallville. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about Smallville growing up. I was 23 years old when even when they did that stupid flashlight promo. You remember the flashlight promos? You got all these extras. You had anybody, maybe the staff's kids, people, the director's kids, people. They just get a bunch of teenage kids with flashlights and run around in the forest and talk amongst yourselves, or they'd loop it with other actors' voices, and that started the Smallville show. And we would see the promos for these three actors here that they kind of started the whole, Smallville season 1, 2, 3, 4. So, the first 4 seasons were about high school and being in a small town and a small village with farms and stuff. And then you had the next 3 seasons were about Krypton and Supergirl and Kryptonian heritage, Brainiac. And then the last 3 seasons were more superheroic, comic adventure, comic book, turning into Superman kind of thing. So you know the deal with that. There were 2 actors one male, one female, that were throughout the entire series from season 1 to the end. One is, of course, Tom Welling, and the other one is Allison Mack. And it's shocking because I learned in the news that, well, I found out about the sex trafficking things that were going on in Nexium, spelled NXIVM, which sounds weird. Sounds like a bunch of Roman numerals accidentally spliced together. And so she got arrested, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday. She pleads not guilty. She was part of this cult in Vancouver, I think. Now I'm reading multiple reports from Hollywood Reporter, CNN, Fox News, New York Times. So if I get any of this wrong, please, comment me in the comments section. But she gets arrested. She pleads not guilty. The guy, Keith Raniere, is the sort of the ringleader, the mastermind of the sex cult slaves. Now, with Smallville, I enjoyed the show. I didn't enjoy so much of the drama, but it was teen drama. It was the WB, then CW going on with all that stuff. But I enjoyed the show. And you see Chloe Sullivan. Chloe Sullivan is this sort of kind of Me Too. If Chloe Sullivan had more stories, she'd be part of the Me Too movement and be like the apprentice to Katie Couric. She'd be this righteous person, right? Katie Couric and the Me Too movement basically is Chloe Sullivan in real life. But that's Chloe Sullivan is Chloe Sullivan. She's a person created by writers in a room. This is Allison Mack, of course. This is who she really is. Of course, she got arrested. She was part of this sex cult. Now, Kristen Krug was also part of it. She said she was trying to get over her shyness earlier in the term of Smallville. My theory, and this is only my theory, I believe she probably had intimacy, sex issues that she was trying to get over with maybe a boyfriend she was dating at the time, and maybe that was what she was there for. And as soon as she sensed some bullshit going on, she fucked right off, and probably threw her so-called friend Allison under the bus when the police probably talked to her one day, which is fine. You gotta keep your reputation, okay? Kristen Krug's got a show going on called Burden of Truth, some sort of web series on CW, I think, or maybe it's only in Canada. Maybe it's in Canada and on the CBC and the internet. So she can't afford to go to jail. She can't afford to lose her job. She can't afford to lose her acting. She goes to school. college. I mean, adult school. I don't know what she's doing, but she can't afford to lose any of that. So she's cool. I'm okay with her. I one time I sent some fan art to her back in the first after the first season of Smallville. So she was nice. She's polite. She's sexier than Allison. So we're gonna put her to the side. Reserve. I would ask you to reserve judgment on her until more facts come out. But let's just, for now, let's think positive. I don't want to blacklist everybody, so we're cool. No darts thrown at her. Just keep it cool. But we're just focusing on Allison and Keith Raniere, but most importantly, Allison, which we had, such high hopes. We thought she was Katie Couric. We thought she was Me Too movement, but she's doing all this, allegedly, she's doing all this stuff that is just unheard of. It's a cult, okay? So it's a sex cult, NXIVM, where women, maybe even men, are branded on their genitalia, and they worship Pimp Mac, as Allison Mack is allegedly called, and Keith Raniere as the vanguard. And there's starvations and sleep deprivations and maybe drugs and all kinds of shit. And it's like the Hollywood thing. It's like this Hollywood lifestyle of doing some extreme. I mean, white people. I'm a Latino, but white people do some extreme cult shit, don't they? I mean, a few degrees to the right or to the left, and it would be like Charles Manson's group, I mean, this was just a few steps from being Charles Manson and his cult. And he had a cult following. All those women who went to jail and all that shit. And it's unnerving. And as I look through these comics, we have a couple of pictures. I mean, we think of her as being this sound person because, of course, TV lies to us and we go into TV and we go into the things that make TV proper. And I say this as I watch Gotham. I'm into Gotham more than the other, than Arrow and Flash and Supergirl and DC Legends and Black Lightning, and maybe a little bit more than Krypton. But this is a different image. I think to myself, well, this is what happened. She got arrested. Keith Raniere got arrested. The leader got arrested in Mexico a couple of days ago. And reportedly she was seen chasing the car down. I don't know what. She was trying to stop the police from arresting him. She's revealed to be married to a female star, so she's lesbian. And she might be bisexual in reality, but she's reported to be lesbian and married to a female star, who is that female star from Battlestar Galactica is also part of the cult. And I think, from what I read, one of the 1980s Dynasty Star's daughters is part of that cult. It's like, what the fuck is going on? So it's ridiculous. It's just one of these things that must happen, I guess. It's unnerving. We think of her going to the Daily Planet, being an intern, working hard, but that's just what we wanted to see. This is the smoke and mirrors, unfortunately. What would Chloe Sullivan think of Allison Mack? Probably not very good thoughts, but you can't expect much. I mean, I was a different person back in 2001. I had to go to college. I had good legs. I have a bleeding disorder, which, it's a pain in the butt, and hopefully there's a cure soon. But I was a different person. I was naive, more into women, more into American women, seeing the good side of people, seeing the bright side of people, seeing the happy side of people, and not really reserving any judgment, not really thinking less of anybody. To me, I thought of her as somebody that, was on the straight and narrow. I mean, sex cults and Allison a year ago, 2 years ago, you couldn't even think of that. And you think of something like this. I don't know. To me, she was somebody who could have been better. She could have been anybody. She could have been, we try to look at people through rose-colored glasses. In some cases, the rose-colored glasses is our handicap because we don't go prying into people's lives. TMZ didn't hunt her down, at least not now. They do, but before they just, she went to Vancouver and did this sick shit. And so nobody kept track of her like that. So you had nothing but rose-colored glasses to look at. Um, and so I'll put this other one up. This is the only other cover. So these are, I mean, like I said, these are the only two stars, Tom and Allison, that have been through the entire 10 seasons. Erica Durance for Lois Lane came in at season 4. Sam Jones, funny enough, I think he was arrested for drug trafficking or some sort of drug bust. I remember that. I think you remember that too. He left after season 3. Ma and Pa Kent left after seasons 5 and I think 5 and 6 or 5 and 7. But maybe after at the end of season 6, Annette O'Toole left, and some people came and went. Cassidy Freeman came in at season 8, 9, 10. It's heartbreaking, man. It's heartbreaking to see somebody that you believed would be a little bit above that. I get that Hollywood actors have this wild lifestyle. They'll have, maybe they'll have an orgy once in a while. Maybe they'll have, maybe they'll have 10 boyfriends, cheat on their boyfriend with a married man. I get this kind of stuff. Sleeping pills, ecstasy pills, drive around, cry for attention. If you ever read Hollywood Animal by Joe Esterhaus with Sharon Stone stories, read that. That's a pretty good book. Harvey Weinstein stuff, sexual harassment, the dominance of power. I mean, I know there's a Me Too movement, but on a side note, think about the people who knew Matt Lauer and Charlie Rose who were doing all that stuff. And think about the people who didn't speak up, and now this Me Too movement comes out of nowhere. That's bullshit. So the moral of this story is that you gotta, if you're in a position of power, of celebrity fame, you have tens of thousands of followers on Instagram, let's say if Allison Mack had her own YouTube channel, you'd have maybe 1 million followers on YouTube, maybe 50,000 followers on Twitter, maybe some more on Snapchat, on Facebook. Is this what you really want to be doing? If the not guilty is not guilty, but again, there were reports that she had taken over the cult after Keith was arrested. So what does that tell you? So I don't know what she's supposed to do. But I think the thing for us is that we watch the stories, we watch the comic book movies, we watch the comic book TV shows, and we can only take people at face value. Because it's one thing to like the actors' characters, but to meet them in person at Comic-Con, at WonderCon, at DragonCon, etc., it's a whole other animal. And it's just the fact that these things happen is a testament that you cannot put too much faith in people like that. I favor the writers, the directors, the producers sometimes, who just want to tell a story. And she had the look and bravado of a person like Katie Couric. Of a Katie Couric at 20 years old, Allison Mack could play that easily, right? But these things will happen. Life catches up to you. Your bad deeds catch up to you. I mean, it reminded me of a 2020 segment where a Christian husband and wife, the wife her father was a Christian pastor, and I don't know about Christianity, so I don't know if pastor or preacher for Christianity started his own cult where they starved children. It was some sort of Bible verse about starving children, sacrificing the lamb, starving children for the greater good. And they were starving children at McDonald's. These kids were starving to death, and there were dead bodies buried out in forests somewhere near the mountains. And this was even a worse cult. It was worse than sex trafficking. It was almost like right between Charles Manson and the sex trafficking, it was a bunch of kids starving to death. And they arrested the mom, they arrested her father, and the husband got his kids back, and they were traumatized, but they were okay. So it's unnerving, okay? Because it shocked me. I mean, in these last few months, I had been reading about this. It shocked me a little bit that Kristen Krug was involved at all in this. But I think Kristen Krug will be fine as long as she, disavows knowledge of these people. As long as she wasn't photographed or videotaped, she should be all right. Um, I think Kristen probably has less rocks in her head than Allison Mack. I think Allison Mack really, really needs to figure herself out. Uh, she's probably going to lose a lot of work, kind of like Michael Richards did when he did his famous. Everybody remembers Michael Richards' famous rant 10 years ago, and you know, I'm not sure. I think Michael Richards should be given a second chance. If Michael Richards got on Empire for an episode, won't that be something? That'll be something. You can see somebody on TMZ saying, "Oh, look, Michael Richards is hugging all the black actors. Oh, this is wonderful. This is great." Hey, nowadays you see the comments on YouTube and they just say, "Hey, leave the poor man alone. He's sorry. He's sorry." And I believe that. I believe he is sorry. I believe he broke down and he really figured himself out. And that's what Allison Mack has to do as well. Because if any more evidence comes out, of course, as you've read in the reports, both she and Keith could face 15 years in prison. And so Monday is going to be the bail hearing. So if I were Allison, I'd start giving up the shark. And I would say, you know what? You're going to have to start, you're going to have to start cooperating with the police completely and with your attorney and disavow, well, you can't disavow knowledge. I mean, I think the rumors are too deep. The gossip is too much. There are too many people involved for you to say you had nothing to do with anything. And there were even infomercials about her and Keith Raniere. I think I saw a little bit of one clip. And it was just disturbing a bit. It looked professional, but it looked disturbing. So, it's just, as I'm saying this right now, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. So, what more can I say? I'll talk for 3 more minutes. I think 20 minutes is long enough to rant about this. So, I think I liked Smallville more as we got into seasons 8 through 10, when Clark Kent was becoming the red-blue blur and the trenchcoat blur and Superman. And yeah, Chloe had that role that eventually Felicity Smoke, Emily Beckett Rickards took over, the blonde computer girl. Hopefully. I mean, you never know. Like, you see these stars on the CW now. You don't know them. I don't know them. You don't know what they are about until you really know. So yeah, she's too deep up over her head in water to disavow knowledge of the cult. All she can do is cooperate with the police. Allison has to cooperate with completely. She may do, I mean, I know she's going to have to do community service. She's going to have to do some time and community service. But yeah, I don't think she'll do the 15 years. I think she'll do some years, and I think she'll get out for good behavior. She'll do some community service. But as far as Allison's connection to the CW, any future projects, CBS, NBC, maybe even Netflix, that's probably shot down for now. And she's just not going to do anything more in the future. So that's about it. So I'm going to sign off. I'll probably do some video gaming tonight, and we'll go from there. So peace out, and tune in to Gotham. That's still a good show, right?